Jamestown was the first permanent English settlement in North America. It was founded in 1607 and served as the capital of the Virginia colony for over 80 years.
Setting sail for America, the Virginia Company of London received a license from King James I of England in 1606 to found a new colony in North America. They provided funding for an expedition consisting of 3 ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, and 144 men, 105 settlers, and 39 crew members, to sail to America. On December 20, 1606, they left.
The 3 ships first headed south to the Canary Islands. They then traveled across the Atlantic Ocean to the Caribbean islands, landing at Puerto Rico for fresh food and water. From there, the ships headed north and finally, 4 months after leaving England, landed at Cape Henry in Virginia on April 26, 1607.
Unfortunately, the site they chose was not ideal. In the summer, the site turned into a swamp filled with mosquitoes and poisonous water. In the winter, it was unprotected from the harsh winter storms and became bitterly cold.
For the settlers, the first year was a complete failure. The first winter claimed the lives of more than half of the initial settlers. The majority of them perished from illnesses, waterborne illnesses, and malnutrition. A handful were also killed in conflicts with the Powhatan, a local Native American group. The Powhatan and a resupply ship that arrived in January were the only things that kept the settlers alive.
Native Indians from the area belonged to the Powhatan, a vast alliance of tribes. The Powhatan people and the settlers did not get along at first. When settlers ventured outside the fort, the relationship didn't get better until Captain John Smith took over as colony commander. Smith was kidnapped when he tried to go see the Powhatan chief. Pocahontas, the chief's daughter, stepped in and interfered to save Smith. Following this incident, the 2 groups' relations grew better, and the settlers were able to trade with the Powhatan for essential items.
It was in the summer of 1608 that Captain John Smith became the president of the colony. Unlike the other leaders, Smith was not a gentleman, but an experienced seaman and soldier. Smith's leadership gave the colony a chance to survive. A lot of the settlers didn't like Smith. He forced everyone to work and made a new rule that said, if you don't work, you don't eat.
However, the rule was necessary because too many of the settlers were sitting around expecting others to build houses, grow crops, and hunt for food. Smith also told the Virginia Company to only send skilled laborers such as carpenters, farmers, and blacksmiths to the settlement in the future. Unfortunately, Smith was injured in October of 1609 and had to sail back to England to recover.
The winter after John Smith left, 1609 to 1610, turned out to be the worst year in the history of the settlement. It is often called the starving time, because only 60 of the 500 settlers living in Jamestown survived the winter. After the harsh winter, the few settlers left were determined to abandon the colony. However, when fresh supplies and colonists arrived from England in the spring, they decided to stay and make the colony work.
The colony did not have much success for a few years. But when John Rolfe introduced tobacco, things started to change. Virginia began to grow tobacco as a cash crop, which assisted the colony's fast expansion over the following few years.
When did the settlers arrive in Virginia?
In 1607, 104 English men and boys arrived in North America to start a settlement. On May 13 they picked Jamestown, Virginia for their settlement, which was named after their king, James I.
What did the settlers choose to anchor their ships close by?
The settlers arrived in Virginia in May 1607, hoping to find gold. They chose a place near a river, where the deep water allowed them to anchor their ships close by.
Who named the settlement Jamestown?
On May 14, 1607, 104 English men and boys set foot on North American soil. They named their settlement Jamestown, in honor of the English king, James I.
What disease did the settlers carry in the marsh?
Infectious disease was rampant. The illnesses that struck newcomers, dysentery, severe diarrhea, typhoid fever, and malaria, killed too quickly to affect the skeleton. Only malaria might have left clues in the bones of some colonists, if they survived for several months or years.
What was the name of the company which sponsored Jamestown?
The colony was sponsored by the Virginia Company of London, a group of investors who hoped to profit from the venture.
Who saved the colony from starvation? He told colonists that they must work in order to eat.
John Smith saved the colony from starvation. He told colonists that they must work in order to eat.
Who had the colony plant and harvest tobacco, which became a cash crop and was sold to Europe?
John Rolfe had the colony plant and harvest tobacco, which became a cash crop and was sold to Europe.
What was the crop that was sold to Europe for Jamestown to make a profit, make money?
In 1612, John Rolfe, one of many shipwrecked on Bermuda, helped turn the settlement into a profitable venture. He introduced a new strain of tobacco from seeds he brought from elsewhere. Tobacco became the long-awaited cash crop for the Virginia Company, who wanted to make money off their investment in Jamestown.
Who saved John Smith when Native Americans captured him?
According to Smith, the chief's young daughter, Pocahontas, saved him from execution. Historians have questioned his account. In any case, the Powhatan released Smith and escorted him back to Jamestown. By January 1608, only 38 of the original 104 settlers were still alive.